Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. And my
Alaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah, I need to switch up here. Get to the phone. You can hear me okay, or is there something strange going on? My Bluetooth keeps
I can hear you
and
fine.
chiming out. I'm fine. All right, great. And you fine too.
Alhamdulillah.
You got that rapping up there. It's rapping. And you're golden, huh? You're golden. Praise be to Allah. Wonderful. All right, we're going to let everybody know this is a different kind of broadcast today because we're about to take our Ramadan break. We don't do the Monday broadcast during Ramadan. Because of the overlap for iftar for so many people. That's one reason. I will be doing other broadcasts that fall in the other daytime ranges, whatever they might be. Obviously, Jummah, Saturday. And then for the ACU, we don't actually do a Sunday blog talk anymore. We spend that time with the Institute students at the same time slot, 10:30 to 12. And if you're interested in subscribing to a Clear Understanding Institute, then just check in with that very reference, a Clear Understanding Institute, right? And then make it happen from there, insha'Allah. Well, and so we're starting out a bit early today. No introductory audio. We're going to kind of go where the flow takes us, where the spirit takes us. I do have some obvious things that I want to say, obvious to me, of course. And I know that my co-host, Haja Kamila Shuaib, is always prepared. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And that's
Alhamdulillah. I try.
What's going on in your
this
world?
This has been a wonderful learning ground.
Alhamdulillah. So what's going on?
What's going on? Let's see, the environmental, preparations for Ramadan, of course. Then I always look at Ramadan as an opportunity of moving into a new year, because when we come into Ramadan, we want to prepare ourselves for what inspires us to keep our activity in motion through to the next Ramadan. So for many Muslims, it feels much like a new year. We take inventory of what we want to get stronger in, and then we, hit the ground running once the Ramadan is over. So I always like to prepare for those moments. But, that's really been the energy, and finding ways to keep myself motivated and energized, and, not in a way that exhausts me, but in a way that I'm choosing the right things to keep me going. I'm still on full from our private conversation yesterday. So it's like, energy is going as top notch right now. So it's a lot, but alhamdulillah, I'm grateful on all ends.
Alhamdulillah. So I listened to your mother was playing at Fajr this morning. She was so you have a meditation piece that you send out or something like that?
Yeah, so I do something that I call melanated meditation minute. And I've always been I started out like really following a lot of guided meditations just to kind of help to exercise the brain around visualization or the way that we talk to ourselves and things like that. But I've always found that the tonality and language is usually with a Eurocentric lead, right? It's very rare that I have found Black voices, Bilalian voices to do the guided meditations. And so, as my contribution to the social media space, I just create 1 minute clips just for because meditation is so good to just recenter yourself when your energy or your waters are just kind of out of whack. You just take a moment, breathe, take in a message, get yourself visually prepared, and I walk people through a 1 minute meditation. I also have a 10-minute manifestation meditation that is I don't know if we put it on YouTube yet, but if you go to our mailing list on Love is Always the Subject Institute, you can get access to that as well as a little download for how to track your experience with the meditation. Zero cost at all, doesn't cost you anything, just your time to go there. And we just see who wants to further really understand how to take on the practice of meditation for the betterment of your mental stability and, and how you engage the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna give you a public surprise and a public promise, and I might hit you with a challenge after this. But I did, when your mother and I we went whatever the last cruise it was that we were on. It was all pre-COVID cruise and whatever. Out there on the ocean in the balcony, because you and your mother, before COVID, you guys would take an annual cruise together, just you and her. Yeah. So alhamdulillah. So I get my turn too. So there's a me and her. And
Yes.
so when we were on the last cruise, I'm out there, on the balcony looking at the ocean, and I was doing my reading, and I created a meditation too. That's designed to really put you in this way. It's longer than 10 minutes, right? But it's got all that ocean element in it, and the sound, that sound of those waters when you're on a cruise. It's like, wow.
Yes.
It's like you want to remember that. You want to hold on to that, right? So inshallah, I have to pass that on to you now since we talked about it. You never heard it, but it'd be right.
I mean, you never cease to amaze me. When I think I'm doing something a little different, it's like, girl, don't you know where you got that from? Even without words.
Yeah, you all in that DNA. You got that package. You got the package. Praise be to Allah. I thank Allah for it. Now, since you're smiling, you're laughing, you're spirited. There's another thing that people don't know. This is we going out into the Ramadan break, etc. A lot of people don't know you got pipes. There are a lot of people don't know you got pipes.
That's true.
You got. In fact, on your last cruise, right? On your last cruise, you competed in what was like the American Idol kind of thing or whatever. What was it?
Yeah, they did like a voice competition.
Right.
I did.
And you won on the whole cruise. Out of everybody present, anybody willing to step up, you blew them away, and then you were the celebrity of the cruise from that point on, right?
So very true. Yes. Yes.
So come on now, hit us with that. I'm gonna take you out of that sedentary element. Hit us with just a verse of something a cappella. So just for people to have a taste of something.
Okay, let's see. Okay, well, the thing that comes to my mind immediately. Rockabye, rockabye. rush into the night sky, so excited by what waits. When I close my eyes, in my dreams I see you breathing deep, hoping to taste you. Ooh, it makes no sense that I have to imagine you.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Excellent,
So let me
excellent,
give you some
excellent.
preface to why I thought that song. That song is called
Go.
Deja Vu,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually have the recording of it. But like the opening of that entire song is really partially the title to my book that I'm writing, and it's about my relationship to scripture. And Imam Muhammad Rami Allahullah would tell us that when we finish reading the Quran, we should kiss it and place it at our heart because it kisses you back. And so when I think about deja vu, the ideal of, because that's what I was talking to you about, remembering, right? This ideal of, we visualize this life that we want. We think about the dreams that we have, right? But we want to be able to create it here and now, and because right now is the opportunity to experience the hereafter, and then we ascend to the hereafter. So that whole song was really around that. But the beauty of art and culture that I have learned to understand is that depending on where you are mentally and how you think, when the outside world experienced the song, they thought I was talking about a love song. They thought that it was just this, my ideal partner, right? I knew that's not what I was writing, but they weren't ready to hear the Quran story, right? That wasn't the environment I was in. But amongst my people was like, look, this is really what this is. And this was something I created to remind myself artistically, like how beautiful the relationship between us and this divine book that we have access to can allow us to remember the garden and build the garden that we want to have in our lives.
Allahu Akbar. Yeah, it's really something. And that was the way, the fact of I'm saying something, you guys are reading it on this level, but I'm actually communicating at that level. But that's what also enables it to get out there. And I mean, we would have to start talking about the Impressions and James Brown and his period, and Sly and the Family Stone,
exactly.
and, the Staple Singers, and all these other people, who had, they had messages, and there were also messages, like we would have messages that we would dance to. I mean, it's message music, right? But nowadays is a whole nother thing. But that's why we got to bring it back. Go ahead. Feel like you got something else you want to say before we go.
Oh, no. That was it. I was just listening to what you're saying. Like when we look at, you play Hijra before we get started, right? That music is still, even if you are not, you don't remember, it implants. The lyrics implant to the subconscious and then to the conscious, that as you create. And even with our guests that we had on, the brother that was doing the poetry, remind me his name. Zaid, right? So like he said that sometimes we'll start off with writing something and we don't even really understand what the thing is that we're writing until later on, years later, we'll revisit it. And it's like, oh, this is what this meant. This was what this connection was to that. But it was doing its work the entire time. You just submit and obey to the inspiration that was sent to you. So cultural, when you connect it with your relationship with Allah, can be extremely powerful. And I don't think we really understand the level of power that is in it when we use it in its proper way.
Yeah, we're gonna get to it. So I'm gonna exit stage left and leave it to you, and then I will be right back. Insha'Allah. Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum to all of our listeners on Blog Talk and those who are with us here on Facebook and on YouTube. I am so very excited to be a part of this next part of our Monday. And as we get prepared to move into this glorious month that we all look forward to, we make dua for those who were unable to see another Ramadan this year. And we make dua strongly that Allah allows us another opportunity to complete this fast fully and to see others in the future. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about our, what are our tools of, we usually say stuff like, coping mechanisms, right? How do we deal with stresses? How do we deal with things that challenge us, right? And it's so important to think about where do we get our rituals that are in place to help us work through our stressors. This morning, as you know, I mentioned I have a group that we meet together called Accountability Click. And, this conversation about the straw that broke the camel's back, right? And we, as Balalian indigenous people, we have had so many moments in our lives that we don't pay attention when a straw has been laid. And when I mean a straw, let's think of a straw as a stressor, a straw as a challenge, an obstacle, and we ignore the feelings that come up with it. And what happens over time when we do not pay attention to those stressors, then there's a breaking point. There is a point where it pulls us completely out of character because we don't quite know how to balance out all of what has happened leading up to the breaking point. So this idea of when a straw is laid and you're feeling a discomfort or you're feeling a stressor, that Ramadan is a beautiful opportunity for us to understand and gather the tools necessary to remove the straws so that there won't be a breaking point, so that there won't be the last straw moment in our lives, right? So this moment, because now we are so aware of our behavior. We're so aware of those vices that we have a tendency to lean towards, whether it's television, radio, food, but that it draws us into ourselves in a way that is that you cannot measure. We are conscious of it's time to pray. We are conscious of consuming Quran. We're conscious of studying the life example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're conscious of hadith. We're conscious of the history, Islamic history, and we're conscious of our leadership and the late language that we have adopted through the leadership that we ascribe to, right? That these different moments within this time of Ramadan is to give us the tools to make it to the next Ramadan. Now, when I say that, I want to be very clear in saying that this is a tool that I utilize and pay attention to. This idea of challenges, obstacles, challenges in life, right? If you choose to use obstacles, I almost feel a little bit better about the term obstacle because it suggests that it is something to conquer. It is something to work through, right? A challenge, on the other hand, it does not quite, it suggests almost a boundary of sorts, right? So I always say, I like to use the term exercise. So we say, I'm a practicing Muslim. We use the term practicing, right? So when someone say I'm a practicing doctor, it's like the doctor sees you and they go through all of the symptoms and then they go to their library of, oh, well, okay, this connected to this, then this must be that. Let's see. It doesn't mean that they immediately have the answer. They just have the tools necessary to treat the symptoms that are showing up until it's something that they've never seen before, right? So this is the same thing with us during this beautiful month that's coming up, is that this is the opportunity to practice what we say we believe. It is an opportunity for us to utilize the rituals and tools that have been given to us, through the life example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and through the Quran that will allow us to recognize, oh, this looks like that. oh, I'm in my Moses season. I'm in my Mariam season. I'm in my family of Imran season. And these, whatever those seasons are, each one of us will have different experiences. And now we have the tools necessary to say, well, how did Moses handle this, this, and this? Because nothing that's happening in our lives right now is brand new. Just like what I say with the doctor, right? Like these things that we are experiencing culturally, politically, environmentally, it's not brand new. It's new to us in this moment, but it has happened in history, and we can find its parallel or the relationship similarities in other moments, right? And this is the beauty of really being able to dive into this book, to know, like, it's an open book test, right? It's an open book test. It's an open book opportunity for us to find the answers for what it is. But if we are utilizing a narrative that doesn't belong to us, if we're not utilizing the tools necessary to really understand how our heart works and what we were created to do, you'll pick up somebody else's prescription and make yourself sick. Right? Because this medicine cabinet, I know I'm like, I'm a metaphor baby, right? And I can't wait for write this down if you're right there, Dad, to really help me understand this way of metaphors, right? Because we talked about that it's my way that I associate what it is that I need to understand. This is Camila. So we had spoke about, when you say it's like, that is the ding, ding, ding point to say, okay, well, look at what that is like. It's like baking a cake. Okay, what does it take to bake a cake? What are those things, and what does that look like in this system of what you're talking about, right? So this moment in our lives, we need to do the exact same thing. But if we're not associating it with something scripturally that will help us to understand how we're navigating this thing, you're all over the place. It's very challenging to make sense of where you are and where you're going, right? I have multiple Quranic connections to my own personal life that help me to navigate understanding how to process very, very specific things. So for me, as an artist, as a teacher, as an activist and a creator of spaces, I find myself drawn to the story of Miriam heavily, like heavily. And every time I revisit it, there's something new that I understand because of how my life has evolved. Now, the Quranic text of it isn't different, but my approach to it is different. So at the base level, when I would approach it and I would read it, me reading it just from the Yusuf Ali translation, there were things that I was able to gather from it, right? And then from those things that I was able to gather from it, when I go back to it and visit it, and I learn a new Arabic word, and now I look up the Arabic word, and then I get something even more out of it, right? Or when I hear my teachers, I hear Imam Fahim Shuaib, or I hear Imam Muhammad, or other teachers within our community with a much stronger level of understanding and scholarship, when they give me even more fruit and nutrients that can further feed how I move creatively, that allows me to pay attention when I have an inspired thought. That helps me to pay attention. Well, okay, when you receive this inspiration, what is required? Because you can't help but to think about, pregnant with purpose. And this was a gem that I received from the many teachers, that you become pregnant with purpose. Because whatever it is that you're creating, if what you have been inspired to do and create isn't for fi sabilillah, if it is not in the name of Allah, if it is not in service to Allah, then it is not a healthy pregnancy, You want a healthy pregnancy that you will, when it is birthed, it will engage and it will establish something in this earth, right? In the same way, when I think about my child, right? And when I think about the parallel as an actual parent, that my child, though I birthed my child and was inspired with my child, I have to nurture this life so that he can establish, so he can engage the world and establish, separate and apart from me, that the baby speaks, right? That my purpose does the work. I don't have to boast and I don't have to tell about it, but what I bring forward, it speaks for itself. People say my work speaks for itself. This is the energy behind this. So that is something that is in my subscription, that prescription box, different words, right? That is my medicine to help me understand what is my intent behind things that I'm inspired by and how I want to create. What is it for? Who is it for? Why am I doing this? And even when I am asked to execute a very specific ask that was inspired on me and I don't want to do it, I'm just kind of like, look, I have no idea how am I going to do this without X, Y, and Z, right? Without the intervention of this, and that. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. But that part is not my business. My part is to accept the assignment and birth it and bring it fully through. Our human part of ourselves will have a level of fear and a little anxiety, and in this environment will make us prioritize things outside of that, knowing good and well that this is the thing that God has given you. So God is not going to leave you without the resources necessary in order for it to see it through to its finish, right? God is not going to inspire you with something healthy and good that will benefit you and the community and the world in which you come from without giving you the resources. You will have the resources. So that business idea, that book idea, the idea to decide, I might need to move out of the country, though I don't really feel like it, but this is something that I need to go back to school. So there are things that have been placed on your heart and you're thinking about, well, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to be able to afford this? How am I going to be able to afford that? That part of it is not your issue. Yes, you remain conscious of it. Yes, you move in a way where there is a plan and a structure in place, that you're just not moving emotionally, but you recognize, oh, okay, this is a task that's because I can't seem to shake this, even if I wanted to, right? And because of that, I have to move very differently and trust and have faith that Allah is going to send me the resources necessary to ensure that I can execute the ask, right? That I can do that. So what are those rituals and those tools, right? Because it's very difficult to receive inspiration when these straws are on our back of the different stresses that we haven't made space to work through it. Those stresses of, traumas and insecurities, those stresses of finances, those stressors about, your relationship to family members or friendships or a spouse or children. These are straws that can, and then you get a moment and then it just breaks you completely down, and your vessel is not even intact to carry the work that's necessary, the work that's being asked of you, the assignment that's being asked of you, or you don't even recognize it. And you miss the most beautiful opportunity to get all of what you need and all of what you want, because Allah is going to give you the assignment that will fulfill you, that will fulfill the parts of you for you to be pleased with yourself and to be pleasing to Allah. But if we're so connected to just this earthly things, and there's no balance between what it is that I want to achieve and have happen in my life, and then dealing with the emotions and feelings of the things that you don't have, then you're going to run into some hiccups along the way, right? So this honesty with oneself is, during this month, let's take a look at it. I always have these moments where um, it's happened less, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, it has happened much less over the years, but there's those moment where during Ramadan you might have this little stressor moment. It's like, I really need a cup of coffee, and you might go in there and literally start to make the coffee, and then right when you about to put that coffee in that hot, or that hot water start boiling or whatever, you go, oh, wait a minute, it's 11 o'clock. Like, I can't have no coffee, right? Or you driving to work and you autopilot pull into the Starbucks drive-through and you go, whoa, wait a minute. Then that right there is the moment to go, okay, what in this moment am I feeling like this coffee is going to solve these feelings and this moment that I'm having right now? Why did I think coffee would be the solution to my problem? Then that's the conversation you want to start with yourself. Okay, so maybe I don't like my job, or maybe I need a better sleeping regimen, or maybe it's like the stress, I need to slow down, breathe, and meditate. Maybe I need to not listen to the wrong things right now, and I need to get more acquainted with my feelings. I'm moving too fast, right? So this drill down conversation allows you to acknowledge the straws of stresses and traumas and issues that will, when a big thing hits that calls you to practice what it is that you believe, you have the capacity to be able to do so. It's available to you for you to be able to do so, right? So let's pay attention to that. Let's ask ourselves those good, healthy questions, because the behaviors of Ramadan are not limited to the month of Ramadan. It is a workshop, for lack of a better term. It is a workshop of opportunities for us to become familiar with this toolbox. You want to call it a toolbox or medicine cabinet, whatever works for you, recipe book, whatever works for you, in order for you to know how to navigate this human experience. Because you're going to test all those parts of how did you make time to make salat during Ramadan? How did you do that? How did you make time to ensure that you were reading Quran? How did you shift your work schedule and all of those other things? How did you make sure that there was community interactions during the month of Ramadan? How did you do that? Because in you recognizing how you do that, that behavior is what can be taken from that month to the months to follow, in order to create a full richness that you gain all of the beauty and jewels of those opportunities. This month is our opportunity to practice this way of life that we say we believe in, and how practicing this way of life that we say that we believe in can enrich our entire life beyond just 30 days, but for every day of our life. So I believe that is my time. I would like to call the man back into the room, insha'Allah.
And we're muted. Okay. Now we're back. Alhamdulillah. Most excellent, most excellent, most excellent. I hope it wasn't a distraction to you, but we had a few people just like bearing witness to what you're saying. So I threw it up there so you can hear that. Go girl, you got it. Keep pushing it, right? Yes. I as a speaker, teacher, what have you, it's always good to get that feedback. When it's going on, because we're a call and response people anyway. That's the way we do, right? I remember. In my early days, when I was less gray and less refined, I would go to some places where, mashallah, I mean, this is not a confession, it's just an expression, that I would go to these places where many of my it's called my immigrant brothers and sisters. You know, their way of listening to a khutbah is really, I mean, culturally by and large, it's just it's different when you go to their space. You know, I mean, I'm speaking in their space, or in one of what are supposedly our spaces, but is dominated by their presence. You know, it's sort of like, absolutely. And then, you know, and so there was a time when I would kind of misinterpret the way that they listened and heard, like, oh, y'all ain't hearing me. Oh, you ain't taking what I'm saying. So I bring out them hot peppers on them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, that's what's wrong with y'all right now. But I have grown. Yeah, alhamdulillah. But I can remember hitting them pretty hard on that, and it was probably due for a couple of them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not carrying it too far. I'm not walking around burdened with. I wish I hadn't said that. You know, so, you know, how many times things have been done to us, you know, without respect for what our sensitivities are. We don't want to go that way. I wind up talking about Will Smith and Chris Rock, but we don't need to. Hey. We're just mentioning, keep going. You know, so that was a pretty serious moment there. You know, hey, you know. In fact, I was listening to something about the science of humor. Something, you know, it was you know, kind of a professorial academic. It was a academic professor talking to a professional comedian who has been doing it for a long time, and they were into the science and the psychology of it. One of the statements that came out of it was that, talking about, you know, what humor actually is, and the scientific comic, who I'll put him that way because he's not just the comic. He's dealing with the science of it. And so he said, yeah, you can joke about everything. That is, you can joke about everything, but you just can't joke with everybody. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like, you know, it's like, yeah, you can make a joke, but you got to make sure you're talking to the right people, so that they can get the joke, right? Because if they don't get it, then you gonna get slapped. And that's how that goes. MashaAllah. Yeah. So okay, I'm gonna move in for my piece. Love you. In a minute.
Love you more.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So today, we just gonna keep going. It's just always so much, and I one of the main drivers for my conversation today is I just don't want people to miss this Bitcoin train, right? That's very specific. Like right now, Bitcoin, for example, is 47,300, and it has gone up over 48,000, and the next stop, because of the fact that it went over 45,000 was the point of resistance. And then when things, as they say, flip, then the resistance becomes support. Okay, so then that means that it used to be a ceiling that came break through, but then when it breaks through, then what it broke through becomes the lowest it's going to go for a period of time. And so 45,000 was that period of time. And maybe it took a month thinking about that, a month overall for it to get from the 30s up to this point, over 45. So when you think about that, you know, that's 30, you know, and then you're talking about something that moved $10,000 per unit in a month. I mean, okay, what else did you do that went up $10,000 in the same month? Did your job, did you get a raise $10,000 more a month? Did your property value go up $10,000 more a month? Did your stocks rise 10,000? I mean, this is something else. And I'm gonna get to I really want it to be understood, the God piece. I'm not my excitement and confidence in that, in this asset class, is because of things that I got to get to telling you about, because there's a foundation for my excitement. There's a foundation for my confidence. There's a foundation for it, and I want to share that with you. And so I'm just giving you this much as a background to say that what, even if you don't get it right now, and this is not quote unquote financial advice. It's just this is a brother saying to his brothers and sisters, say, man, don't miss this, because if you miss this, then you miss it for your children, you miss it for your grandchildren, right? Wallahi, Allahu Alam. You miss it, and this world already, you can see the world you're in right now. It's not so nice. Literally, it's not so nice. And when you look at the kind of creatures, I'm going to put it that way. When you see the kind of creatures that are laying in the cut, and that's looking for a foundation, or waiting for the right/wrong person, depends on what side of the coin you're on, to get into the seat of power of just this country. And to get in the seat of power of this country is effectively to get into the seat of power of the world. And it ain't about loving you. And if you're not preparing yourself for your family and for your subsequent generations to be able to have some source of security and safety and protection and whatever, sustainability and viability in the world 10 years from now, it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, wallahi. So that's that's really part of my thrust. And also, since we're going to be taking this break into enduring Ramadan, there's just so many things that I want to get to. And there's a joy being a student of Imam Muhammad rahimahullah alayhi, and being a student of Imam, there's no immaturity in that. Say, I'm a student of myself, so therefore what you're suggesting, you're somehow less mature. Well, see, that's vocabulary, up to you. But in terms of the way that he has conditioned us to think, when I say condition us to think, I mean just by looking at, listening to, taking the axioms and taking the maxims that he gives us to say, think about this way, and think about that this way, and when you hear that, think that, and when you hear this, think that. So that he guides our thinking. And this is so with that, you wind up with a freedom, and you wind up with a perception and a view of the whole world, the universe itself, indeed, that, wow, it's like literally, mashallah, everywhere you turn, by the grace of Allah, everywhere you turn, it's like enlightenment. It's like it happens. I'll give you an example in what I'm saying right now. So today, in my intention to prepare for our Monday broadcast, as I always do, it is always involving a search. I have some idea, so I was trying to search for. We had always been beginning our broadcast with some audio from some video, for example, for that. And I'm feeling that from today, that's going to kind of change when Ramadan comes back. I'm not so certain at this moment. I'll consult with my co-host. I'm not so certain at this moment that we're always going to start with a video or audio. We'll perhaps have our own kind of beginning in that sense. I mean, it's all ours, but I don't even know how I got there. So we're talking about. I heard Camila and her expressions, and I know. When we talk about intuition, right? We talk intuition, and intuitions are those spontaneous bits of knowledge that come to you basically just through your heart, right? And it becomes clear in your mind that and then the substance of what you're talking about comes into fullness, right? Well, this is one of the things that happened today. I'll show you. I'm just watch this process, sort of how it happens. I was listening to I was listening to a piece while I was searching for a potential audio to play, and it was "Money is Man's Greatest Illusion" or something like that. So if you want to go look for that on YouTube, fine, you can do that. It's about 17 minutes or so. And normally for our broadcast, we've been starting with maybe like 10 minutes or 12 minutes or so. And it was a 17-minute broadcast. So that meant that I would need to, break it down and take some pieces out of it, which also takes some time. But it talked about money as an illusion, and it went through these things. And I may say some things connected with it, but here's what happened. There was a statement in his piece, in his presentation, trying to get people to understand the illusion of money, right? And trying to get people to understand how this Federal Reserve note of ours, which is the same as renminbi and the British pound, the Japanese yen and stuff, fiat currency. Fiat currency is government money. It's like, it's not money because, quote unquote, there is something in its nature that gives it value. It's money because we say it's money. That's the only reason that a dollar carries any value and has any transactional worth, is because the government backs it up with, okay, everybody, here's the law, use dollars. That's the only reason. It has it's no more valuable than monopoly money. Wallahi. That's an important thing for us to really understand. And one other thing you can go look at it to really get an immediate sense of how illusory quote money unquote is. Yap Islands and Yap stones, YAP. Just look that up. I'm not going to say any more about it. So money is an illusion. So one of the things that they said, that you talk about assets like real estate or something and stocks. I think he was particularly speaking about stocks, where at this point of his conversation, trying to get people to appreciate the idea that this thing that you call money, this fiat that you call money, his limitation was he wasn't even going towards crypto. He didn't even talk about crypto. They didn't even get to crypto because his point was for people to get assets that appreciate. Okay, real estate, securities, and he still had a fondness and uplift for gold as well. So his main thing is say, look, this paper dollar, this fractional reserve system, this Federal Reserve dollar, look, it's not real. So don't get stuck in that, because you're actually losing money by inflation and the way that it's being printed and how out of thin air they're able to create these things called dollars. Don't get locked up into that. Get something that has real value, assets that have real value, and they are assets when they have this potential and nature in and of themselves to appreciate. And so when he talked about stocks, he's saying, a stock market, speaking of the overall New York Stock Exchange, a stock market that goes straight up, that's not necessarily good, or that's not a good thing. The stock's going up. He said, because the main thing is that those stocks are being buoyed and calculated and read and interpreted in terms of the dollars themselves, which in and of themselves don't have any intrinsic value. So if you say that Tesla stock is, and I'm going to tell you, we drove down to and back to in Southern California, Yolanda and I, this weekend, and I'm telling you, I'm prepared to say without really fear of major contradiction that Teslas are about almost 1 in every 10 cars that's on the California highway. I'm about impressed to say that, because it's like Teslas everywhere. You see them on the road, and you see them on the trucks that carry Teslas to wherever they're taking them, to car lots or what have you. It's like Tesla is banging. So I mean, I get it. So for as far as Tesla stock, SpaceX and all the rest of that. It's like, yeah, that seems like, that's a stock to get into. But how is it measured? And how is its value determined? Well, not determined. How is it measured? And it's measured in dollars. Okay, but what's the intrinsic value of dollars? What is the intrinsic value of dollars? Dollars don't have any intrinsic value. So the point is, he's saying, don't put all of your hope and your investment into something that is itself based on something that itself doesn't have inherent value, right? I meant to do this before. Once I start rolling a bit, my throat kind of dries out. I'm coughing. All right. So the image that came to mind to reinforce that point, because he's saying, look, you can get all excited about something. Oh, look how much this is worth and that is worth. Okay, but that thing that you're saying that is worth, what is it worth? It's worth so many dollars. Question. But what is the dollar's worth? Right? What is the dollar worth? And so you're saying this is so valuable because it's worth so many dollars. Well, the dollar, the real value of the thing is not in the dollars. That's just a way of reading that. So in his warning and suggestion as to not depend on fiat to be the way of determining whether what you have is an asset or not was just one of his points. So I'm saying, okay, well, what illustrates that? One of the things that for me illustrated is like I started thinking in terms of ice and water, mainly because when you talk about money is being a store of value, right? And so inflation, which is one of the things that happens because of the ease with which Federal Reserve notes, we call them dollars, can be printed and produced. You literally don't even have to produce the printing paper anymore. All you got to do is just change the number on the computer screen. That shows you how illusory that actually is. But the idea of how this newly printed money devalues the money that is in the bank or in your wallet or what have you, the more money that gets printed at the source, then the more it weakens or takes away value from money that hasn't even moved out of your pocket or out of your bank account. It is worth less now because more of that has been produced. So one of the images of it, Michael Saylor is one of the Bitcoin advocate from the major corporate side. It's like melting. It's like if you're holding cash, it's like having a giant ice cube, what have you. And the longer you hold it, it's going to melt. That's just the nature of it to melt. So it's the same way so you can have a lot of dollars in the bank. Dollars. It's like dollar. How many you got? Got $1 million. Okay, well, it's dollars. Okay, it's dollars. What happens with dollars? Well, dollars melt, right? Inflation takes away. Inflation steals value, and the nature of the system that we live in is a thief of value. They don't even have to come in and rob your bank. They don't have to come in and take the money out of your pocket. They just take it by producing more. And here's a phrase, won't go into it. Cantillon effect. I'm Cantillon, but I think it's Cantillon. Cantillon. Look that up because it's talking about the fact that those people who are closest to the source of wealth and power, they get the first benefit of wealth and power as it flows from that source. So that means senators and congressmen, there's some of them who go in, they are nowhere near millionaires going in, but then they come out multimillionaires. So it's like going into Congress and Senate and politics, if you will, is going into business. And then when they go out, you got the revolving door scenario. Go from the corporation to Capitol Hill, and then you go back from Capitol Hill to corporation, and then you peddle the influence and blah blah. That's the game. Come on, just get it straight. Be clear about that. So if you're not in that part of it, then their behavior, the fractional reserve system and all the rest of that, is melting your dollars. All right. Okay. So the point is that when you analogize dollars as ice, and then so now imagine a giant building, but the building is built of ice. The building is built of ice. And so then I went to igloos, right? Because a part of what has to happen is, okay, how does this actually work? Okay, so now if you're in a place like Alaska or the North Pole or what have you, where it seems like, okay, these temperatures are always going to be below freezing. Not Alaska, not necessarily always below freezing, but there's a season for freezing for sure. So when your world is there, then it's good. You can build your igloos and build your structures out of ice, and you don't have much to worry about because the atmosphere is always going to support and sustain the solidity of the material that you use to build that structure. Okay, so that's in a world where there's igloos and where the structures are built out of ice, and there's no expected real change in the environment, such that you don't have to worry about it melting because it's always below freezing up here for sure. All right, so take that analogy and apply it to dollars. And the impact of so many things that we're not mentioning right now, but the impact of the economic system, such as it is, even with Nixon in his August 15th closing the gold window 1971, that took us off the gold standard and put us into fiat currency and started the rest of the world because the rest of the world said, okay, if Nixon did it, shoot, we're going to do it too. If he don't have to back his up with gold, then we don't have to back ours up with gold. So in domino effect around the world, everybody stopped tying their currency to gold. And so now we're on a global fiat currency system. So then when you add into all that, like they're punishing Russia with these sanctions, and by taking them out of the SWIFT system, you can look that up. It's an acronym for the global financial transaction system. It's something like, everybody can come in the store, but the Russians. Let's put it like that. So that system. That's a part of, the changing atmosphere, whereas the below freezing where the igloos are still good. Okay, so dollars where there's nothing threatening the dollars, right? Well, then your money is good. Your structures are fine. But when you're in a world where fiat is becoming weakened by the way that business is done, globally speaking, and the position that the dollar has been as the number one global reserve currency, you got to look that up. Look up the global reserve currency and look at, and the others that are now, but see, it used to be that the dollar was Bretton Woods. You got to look that up. Bretton Woods, Bretton. You got to look that up and understand what happened then, right after World War II. Then King Dollar was born. King Dollar was born right after World War II. So America was in, I think the language is the catbird seat at that time, because Europe had been blown up. Germany had been killed and killed off as a power, with Hitler's failure to rule the world. Japan, two nuclear bombs dropped on them. And so Britain has blown up. Nobody else had the kind of bank that America has. So America said, I'm in charge. And Bretton Woods, that. And then when things started even getting shaky around the 70s, right? You remember those long gas lines in the early 70s? with the petrodollar was established with Aramco and all the rest of those folks. So the petrodollar buoyed up America even more so. The dollar, or rather, it rescued the dollar after this 1971 move that Nixon made. All of that is to say that the sun has started to rise. That sun started to rise on the dollar, even in the 70s, right? Because that was like the beginning of the end, no matter what, because there was no longer anything fundamentally supporting and sustaining the solidity of the dollar. Again, the petrodollar we were able to sustain it because America said, okay, all this oil is all right. Look, don't jump. This is Saudis. This is what the agreement was. Telling the Saudis, or agreeing with the Saudis, it wasn't like telling them like straight gangster, but you had that. But the point was, like, look, y'all need protection from your own people. Y'all want to be royal and you want to be in charge. You don't want to be threatened by nothing. Okay, well, we'll take care of your military, the military side of your security. We got you covered on that. But you do this. Don't you sell none of your oil to anybody except in dollars. If China want to buy oil from you, tell them we only do it for dollars. India want to buy oil, tell them we only do it for dollars. We only do it for dollars. If Europe wants to buy it from you, we only do it for dollars. So therein lies the strength of the dollar post closing the gold window by Nixon. So now you got the petrodollar, et cetera. Okay, but now all you got to do now is take a look at what's the state of the petrodollar right now. Won't go into it, but what's the state of the petrodollar? It's pretty much, on life support. I mean, when you go, you get to, there was a point, I don't know, it was maybe just before the pandemic that oil was under, it was like you had to pay to keep oil stored. So it's like there was a negative, it had fallen to a negative price. So of course it has come up now, and that has a lot to do with a lot of things. But when you look at the rise of electric vehicles and all that kind of thing, Tesla and the things that are going on right now, and so many things that are not tied to petroleum and all these other movements that are designed with, changing the global warming and the carbon footprints and all that kind of stuff. All that is a threat to the dollar. That's a threat to the dollar when it all is said and done. And that's without talking about the other currencies that have been added to the basket of global reserve currencies, like the Chinese renminbi. China got into the room where it said, well, hey, put us in the basket. I'm just put it like that. Put us in the basket. Okay, the yen is in the basket, the pound is in the basket, the dollar is in the basket, maybe something else is in the basket. I don't think the ruble is in the basket because they started their own unit. But China, the big panda, did their thing and said, look, hey, put me in the basket. And so China is also a global reserve currency. But this is literally, I know it's within the last 10 years. Because it's been since we've been doing this broadcast that actually came up. All right. So what is all that saying? All that is saying that the dollar is dying. And maybe that's old news for some of you, and especially if you've been listening here. The dollar is dying, right? And look at how much they're telling the poor boys and girls in the hood, you need to stack dollars. I'm stacking dollars, right? Make it rain. And man, it's just crazy. It's crazy. It's like, and we don't think around stacks on debt. Man, that's not the deal, man. Don't even stop thinking in terms of dollars. Think in terms of assets and think in terms of appreciation. So all of this, comes from thinking about money as an illusion. So there are several things, and we won't be detailing them here, but insha'Allah, during our Ramadan break, I'll flesh out more things. Many of them I actually do have fleshed out, but I just haven't set it up for a presentation. I'm just walking you through this kind of I'll call it a meditation that came up once I saw the question. There's certain things in the vocabulary that I had to just write down these words, right? So here goes. Money, illusion, perception, reality, belief, and then I already talked about igloos and ice structures. I just write these things because when the intuition comes, you say, okay, well, it relates to this, relates to that. Don't try to work it all out. Don't try to, pull it out. Just make the list, because they are all connected. They are all they're intertwined. They're involved. Okay, you work out the details of how they're involved. Work that out later. And each one of these, I do have a very mature understanding. Mashallah, alhamdulillah, there's no boast. A very mature appreciation for what they actually have to do with the way we live. Money. I took money through the khalaqa fasawa qaddara fahada process. Why? Because the Imam said, when you know these four things about anything, then you know everything about that thing. So, okay, so why not do that with money? It's like, yeah, I want to know everything is about money. And of course, that is abstractly. It doesn't mean I can walk into a Harvard Business School and teach a class, satisfactory. I mean, I could teach class, but whether it would be a credentialed class, and that's a whole nother story. That's because they have their own status. Moving on. So the idea is money, critical, illusion, understand the nature of illusion. Give you an Arabic word real quick. Ghurur, illusion. What does illusion have to do with reality? What does ghurur have to do with reality? Really, that's critical. And this is all in the context of money, wealth, production, and the like. Perception, what does that have to do with reality? Just like we talked about Yap Island. Also, the Brazilian URV. I'm running by these things for you to look up. Those of you who've been with us on the broadcast, you've heard whole programs on these things, but I want you to put it in the context of what I'm saying now, though, especially those of you who are new. The Brazilian URV. Look at what happened to the Brazilian economy right around the late 80s, 85 to 90. All this took place then. And you'll get another appreciation for the illusion of money, And so the point is that if someone just gets into chasing money, you're chasing an illusion. Get that straight. You're chasing an illusion. So if somebody gets you into the mood and the mode, man, more money, you are a cat chasing a red dot. You're a dog chasing your tail. The money ain't the thing, right? I think somebody said that. So perception and reality, there's this phrase, that's whatever. It's something of a cliche, but it's a statement of fact that has to be understood at a different level. Perception is reality. If perception is reality, then where do you get your perception? Where do you get your perception? And that when we say perception, I mean perception with a capital P, because your perception is what causes you to decide what is real. Cause you personally to decide what is real. You can have a perception that's real for you, it won't necessarily be real for me. But the perception itself is going to impact you in a way where your behavior is going to be lined up with your perception, regardless of how I perceive what it is you might be considering. The critical thing is your perception. That's important. Belief, another word, belief. And let me put a capital B on this right here. Believers, brother and sister. Let's get it straight right now. Work on it more if you haven't yet. Listen. Yes, Islam, we have our beliefs. That's the sole content grounded in the ultimate reality of all things. What we believe in Allah, we believe in the angels, we believe in the books, we believe in the messenger, we believe in the measure, the qadr, and we believe in life after death. These are our beliefs, right? Okay, that's fine. That's what gives us our life as human beings in our existence. question: how does that condition of heart and mind relate to how things happen and how you make things happen in the world? Right? So going back to the idea of perception is reality. Then you also have the statement, seeing is believing. These are things that you have to work out. Yeah. To have a meaningful, what do you mean meaningful? Something, to have a way of perceiving that impacts your existence in a very concrete way, right? So how does belief translate into reality? I'm talking about the moving environment, the three-dimensional concrete environment that you're in. How does belief relate to that? See, because you can have those that, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen, and I have no idea, I have no way. Only Allah knows what's in anybody's heart, period. So I don't have any particular person in mind when I say this, but I do have in mind the profile of an individual, not a specific individual. I'm saying a profile of one who. Okay, I want to get away from it. Anything about you talking about Joe, Sue, Billy, or whoever? No, that belief only relates to, and it's only significant for your relationship with Allah, your relationship with the Prophet, your relationship to Salah, your relationship to Dua, your relationship. Am I mocking any of those things? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You need to get off of that. What I'm saying is that there are those who take it, and they did it during the Prophet's time as well. Take that belief and limit it to devotions, my salah, my fasting, my worship of God, and that's limiting it. It's good to be there, but you're limiting it. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was an occasion where people came to them lauding, L-A-U-D, lauding, praising a man because of his devotions, right? And the Prophet asked them, because his fasting, his prayer, his and all that. And the Prophet said, well, who takes care of him? He said, we do. The Prophet said, well, then you're better than he is, right? So if you keep thinking inside of that, then you can see how somebody can run a game where, okay, they're really excited about people who have devout, pious presentation and way of being, what have you. So I'm going to be that, and then I can get the money from them, right? I'm sure nobody does that nowadays, right? So that's the game. So the Prophet is, quote unquote, as we would say, as some of us would say, oh, y'all don't say this, peeping the game. Right, he said, well, he running the game on y'all taking care of it. And this is the totality in al-Islam. You have to have the wholeness of the balance, because there's another report from the Prophet, peace be upon him, where a man came to the Prophet complaining about his brother, because his brother seemed to be, quote, exaggerated in this business person's opinion. He seemed to be exaggerated. Seemed to be exaggerated in his worship, such that the brother was kind of like saying, like, well, yeah, he should be contributing a little more to our wherewithal, our situations. Like, I'm doing business, and he ain't contributed as much to our situation as I am. That's the tone of the report. And then the Prophet told him, he said, well, it may be that Allah is blessing you because of him. It may be that Allah is blessing you because of him. So here's the thing, that it goes to that balance, right? The idea of having that balance. We think Allah, alhamdulillah, we have that balance, right? When the Imam, alhamdulillah, rahimahullah, explained to us about the hayya ala salah, hayya ala al-falah, that we do for the adhan and for the iqamah, it said, when you turn to the right, hayya ala salah. So when you turn to the right, you're speaking to those in the world who are more given to material conscious life and behavior. They're really engaged in the world. They're really doing things consciously. They really feel like the only way to really make a difference is how you act and what you do. The right hand, right? But the ritual of the adhan is saying, no, you do that, but you need to come more to salah. You need to come more to salah, because you can go to an extreme in your right-handed thinking, speaking symbolically, in your right-handed thinking, such that you neglect your ibadah, you neglect your worship, you neglect bowing down, because as the Imam says, the material life is intellectually fated, meaning that look, Elon Musk, right, expected to be the first trillionaire. That's the projection right now, to be the first trillionaire, and it is quite noted that he has a very, very high IQ. So that matches up with the idea that where the Prophet said, peace be upon him, by the grace of Allah, in Hadith Qudusi, where Allah is saying, I have created nothing more useful and productive or better than you, speaking of the obedient intellect, right? So to understand the role that the intellect plays in the cultivation of wealth, you see that lived out boldly and plainly in the Elon Musk life situation right now, right? But the point is that your head, your intellect, you can get so proud of your intellect and you can become so devoted to your intellect that now you neglect and you actually think that you don't need God. That's an extreme that's someone who is diseased in that way can be coming to that condition. So the ritual of al-Islam is saying, no, don't stay out there all the time. Hayya ala salah, you need to come to salah. But then now you go over here to the left, right, which relates more to the unconscious makeup, the spiritual makeup, the intuitive makeup, the makeup of devotion, the makeup of even like unstructured living, because this is also one of the things that we can draw from a logic where it says, Hayya, telling you over there who have less structure in your life, right? This on the right, you got structure, but you don't have spirit, right? You over here, you have spirit, but you don't have structure, right? Hayya ala salah. So the salah, you got salah on the right, falah on the left. Salah, you need more, I'll use his term, you need more spirituality. You got structure, but your structure is dry and materialistic. If you go to an extreme, you need to come to salah, right? You over here, you have that spirituality, you have that free, the free, quote unquote, free spirit to and desire to serve God, but you also need more structure. So falah, the falahin are the farmers. They're the ones who cultivate the life of the earth, right? And the life of the earth comes up in structure. It comes up in a structured way. So it's an invitation for those people who live a less structured life to come to a more structured life. And those who have quote unquote extremes, I'll say, in structure, you need to come to get more quote unquote flex and spiritual in your life, in that sense. All of that to say that we're invited to have this balance. The hadith that I spoke to you about from the Prophet was where the people who took care of him boasted. The Prophet said, who takes care of them? Okay, you're better than he is. Okay, but here's what it says. It would appear that he's taking care of his brother more than his brother contributed to it. And the Prophet said, well, maybe that Allah is blessing you because of him. What is it? It's telling us balance, right? So as I draw to a conclusion, even this mashallah, this whole thing is what Allah has decided. So so the idea is that this other piece would take me into a place where I'm not satisfied we'd have enough time to. I'll stay with the idea of this balance, and I'll use report from the Prophet, peace be upon him, in this. So, because the point is, I started out talking about Bitcoin. The Bitcoin scenario is going to be such that, let me read you these numbers. I'm not going to share the screen right now. I just wanted you to hear the numbers. We talked about what the real, in dollar terms, this Bitcoin is going to be. So let me give you a couple of data points. One is the price of Bitcoin is projected to reach 100,000 per no earlier than 2021. We're past 2021 right now, but not later than 2028. So no, it's not at 100,000 right now, and we're post 2021. But the point is that there's a range. There's a range, not later than 2028. I'm gonna tell you another thing. We talked about this on the broadcast, but there's something very critical related to this very moment right here. Abu Bakr and the bet. So you look up in the Quran the first few verses of Surah Al-Rum, Surah 30, where it talks about the victory of the Romans, the Persians over the Romans, and how the Romans are going to make the comeback, and Allah prophesied. And so one of the ways I look it up, if you're just going to look at Abu Bakr's bet, right? And it had to do with that revelation, and it's a prediction, a prophecy that God had promised. And then Abu Bakr was approached and saying, and after saying to the public, what have you, of this revelation, and then so the Arab rejectors among them, they said, no, we don't believe that's going to happen because of how big the Persians were as compared to the Romans of the time. And so, quote unquote, they made a bet. Abu Bakr agreed to it, but he agreed to fixing the number of the term bid'ah. That term is talking about a period of time between 3 and 9 years or something like, around figures 3 and 9 years. And so they said, okay, well, let's just make it 6. So that's right there in the middle, right? And that was Abu Bakr's mistake. The mistake, rahimahullah, radiallahu anhu, the mistake was fixing that Arabic term, that Quranic term, to 6 years when it's supposed to embrace 3 to 9 years. And so by calculation, ultimately, when the 6 years came, it didn't happen. It hadn't happened as of that time. So Abu Bakr, quote unquote, lost the bet. But it's like in year 7, it did actually happen, and many people became Muslim. So the point is that range that was there for Abu Bakr by the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what he should have said. No, the agreement is if it don't happen within 9 years, it's from between 3 and 9 years. That's what God says. That's what we'll quote unquote bet on that. Gambling wasn't forbidden at that moment in time. Okay. So I'm saying this to you with regard to Bitcoin. So you have these people that are making these projected numbers, and 100,000 is the projection between 2021 and 2028. So we're still thereafter. We're still in that mode. But after 2028, the price will never drop below 100,000. 2028. So think about yourself. How old will you be 2028? And if you had a little bit of Bitcoin, then you're looking at some serious value as of that time, right? And then going to the next level, the post 2028 level, the price will reach $1 million per Bitcoin no earlier than 2028. So just like the 2021 to 2028 is the $100,000 boundary, then in this one, 2028 to 2037, you have the $1 million boundary, right? And they will reach 1 million not before 2028. Understand this, brother and sister. One of the facts of Bitcoin is that every 10 minutes a coin is mined. It's fixed like mathematics, which is another thing I was going to spend some time with, but it's fixed like that. It's still going. It's been from that time, from the start, from the gate. 10 minutes. A coin is produced. So it's very mathematical. It's very calculable, and it is predictable. And that's how it has been happening. So when we talk about this, you add adoption cycles and other things that are going on in the world that we don't have time to really go into it obviously right now. But the point is, it makes these. This is how these projections are possible, because it's mathematics. It's mathematics. And so 1 million by no earlier than 2028, but no later than 2037. And then after 2037, the price will never drop below 1 million. That is, we're going to go a little over tonight because we're going to be away during Ramadan. So here's the point. But after 2037, it will not be below 1 million. Now, to think about past projections, right? Predictions. In 2029, there was a 50,000. It was projected that by 2029, it was going to be 50,000. The Bitcoin is going to be 50K, right? Okay, but it didn't become 50K until 2021. And in fact, in 2021, it went as high as 68,000. 68,000. So, okay, so it's 2 years after that 2019 projection, but then it was 40% more than what that projection was. So I'm just saying this all has to do with you don't want to miss this train. At another time, so as to give any of you who may have a comment that you want to make before we close out for the pre-Ramadan, I'm gonna go ahead and limit my comments to that. Inshallah, there'll be other times for us to speak more. So check in. I'm gonna bring my co-host back so you all can check in on if you can text. Now, for some reason, on one side of Facebook, I can see comments. But there's another one that doesn't come through. So I don't know how that works. Inshallah, we'll get that all worked out. But in terms of, so Abdul Shahid, what are you saying? Money, I believe, is that which is important to a person or society, both materially and spiritually. My faith in the Quran 1784 tells me that Allah is changing both worlds of money in this. Absolutely. That I concur wholeheartedly. Alhamdulillah. Abdulaziz, assalamu alaikum to you, my dear brother. Alhamdulillah. So you're not muted, right? You're good, right? All right. Fantastic. All right. Any comments from
both areas?
All right, good. Any comments?
I think also, that like our mindset around.
Hold on, sweetheart. Hold on, baby.
Sure.
Let me get my other studio screen open. My mouse is tripping. All right, I'm connected now. All right, anybody on Blog Talk, if you have a comment that you'd like to make, we're going to be out for Ramadan, so any comments you want to make for this broadcast before the break, then push one on your phone, come on through. Go ahead, Haja.
Yeah, I was saying that the whole idea around money, you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, just making sure. This idea about money, like everything with it, the way that we think and view things, we always have to give ourselves a moment to ask ourselves from what definition are we operating with money from, right? Because this idea of money, if we break it down to the ideal of currency, then we can start to, it does have a different movement when we think about what we give and how we give, right? And a lot of times our money is tied up in trauma around, I don't like my job. So we're estimating how much time it took for me to be able to do X, and then to exceed that requires me to do more of what I don't like, right? So I spend 40 hours at a job I don't like to receive this amount. And I realize in order to exceed that, I got to do overtime. So now you're asking me to do 50 hours of something I don't like. Right. So we associate our money, and that's what makes us just like, okay, well, I got to make whatever it is that I have work, as opposed to shifting our mindset around the ideal of creating a business around the things that we love, a business that is in alignment with the assignment that Allah has placed on our heart. And then we start to do it. It doesn't matter. And then we add value to the people we serve, as well as increasing our value of being able to live, so that we can do more of that thing that gives us joy.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. It's really, it's just really important. Did you have a chance? I'm not asking you to express anything from, but did you have a chance to look at that little video that I shot you yesterday?
The video, the one about happiness. You didn't send me a video. I didn't get it. I didn't get a video on happiness. Hacking the American mind. Hacking the human mind. No, I did not get a chance to take a look at that, but I will. I'll have time tomorrow, actually. But yeah, is it audio or it's video?
It's YouTube. It's YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no
and
worries.
It's also,
I'll definitely.
And it's also a book. It is an audio book. I mean, that I gave you is maybe like 30 minutes of an interview where the person's talking about it. That's okay. So I'm going to resist my temptation to try to read that hadith that I cut myself off on, because we'll be here another hour if I do that. So we're not going to do that. So not hearing any comments or thing to say from my Facebook folks, then I'm going to give you my dua for your success, and that Allah accepts your fast, and that He purifies us all in the best possible way, and that He blesses us to return to the state of our original nature, and to be able to move even further from that platform of purified growth to the next stages in this world and in the next. That's my prayer for you, my beloved, and more, that I don't even have the words and the mind and the wherewithal to say it. You just have to get it. You just got to get it from the divine sphere. It will come to you.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
I got it.
And last words from you.
I know, may Allah allow us to make this Ramadan easy, and that we learn the tools and the things necessary, that it expands beyond the 30 days, but to the next and the next. May we get the most out of it. Alhamdulillah.
Ameen. I love you. Everybody, be well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.